A different video today as I interview my client, Lisa Kells, who went from being an ice skater to a competitive powerlifter on a national platform. This is how she began her journey, started powerlifting, and ended up competing at the SBD National Championships 2024 just last year. Now, if you strength train, if you just want to get into powerlifting, or if you're just curious to listen to Lisa's journey, then you're going to gain a lot of insightful information today, as this is perfect for the gym goer, the strength enthusiast, or the powerlifting enthusiast as well. I do have to apologize just before we crack on. The audio is terrible. I have a lot of cool, good equipment. I just don't know how to use it properly, so my apologies. Anyway, let's get into it, shall we?
I am Lisa. I am part of Team Infinity and have been three and a half years now. Powerlifting for probably about two and a half of that. I'm a doctor by trade. Yeah, kind of somewhat stumbled into powerlifting, but very happily so. It was right at the end of the pandemic when everything was opening back up, and I remember scrolling through PTs and your profile was on there, and I was like, this is a guy who researches and knows his stuff. So I got reached out to you, and then rest from there.
As you get into the gym, it's first of all, it's like through just purely weight loss. That was the goal at first, weight loss.
Yeah, there was some functional stuff in there. Like I had goals of like being able to do a pull up and like hitting a triple figure deadlift.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. Just the pull up, man. Jesus.
Yeah, wild. The only real weight loss goal was more of an aesthetic one. So it wasn't number on a scale focused. It was, there's a pair of jeans I used to fit into and don't fit into anymore.
Yes.
And they're currently far too big and I've gone in the bin.
Yes. So you got into getting a PT and you started on the weight loss journey train. That went well, by the way. Like, that went phenomenally well.
Yeah, and like the classic, you start strength training, doing a bit of cardio, your scale weight is static for 6 months, and then you notice that your clothes don't fit anymore, and then suddenly the scale weight starts dropping off.
I still remember getting into the conversation with you where I was like, okay, we've got some flexibility. We know why I got some flexibility. We're strong. And you were like, yeah, I want to explore a sport. It's either going to be weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting, or powerlifting. And I was like, yeah, a bit more of a static power.
You were
what do you think of powerlifting? What do you think of it?
So gentle in that just kind of suggestion as well.
It was a nudge.
Yeah,
it was a nudge.
Because I was looking at, so at first I didn't really know powerlifting was a sport, because weightlifting was obviously, I think it had been on at the Olympics and stuff. So I was like, that's the sport for people who want to do explosive power. I have not coordinated enough at all.
Have you ever tried it?
Once.
I've done like a session, and the amount of flexibility you need, you've probably got it, but the coordination you need is just insane.
Yeah. And then I remember you saying, you're quite good at powerlifting. Do you maybe want to shift your focus?
What do you think? But to be fair, I remember saying that, and you're like, do you know what, sure, let's explore, let's sort of push it that way. So you got into strength training on the hope to powerlift.
So we did kind of a first genuine powerlifter training block over about 6 weeks, and then we did another kind of less conditioning, more power focused block after that.
Yeah.
And then I looked at what my squat, bench and deadlift were. And
do you remember?
I think I'd gotten up to a triple figure deadlift. I think it was somewhere around 100, 110. My bench, I want to say, was about 40, and my squat was maybe 90, just sub 3 figures. Yeah. So like for a newbie strength trainer, like strength training, powerlifting, they weren't bad numbers at all.
Not bad at all.
But in my head, I didn't really recognise where they were, because I was looking at people who are actively competing or have been training for years. And it was only when I stepped back and compared myself to people who had been training for the same amount of time as I had, I was like, actually there's some power here.
The thing was, when you started lifting weights, getting a bit more powerful, getting stronger, weight loss was just not at all on the mind. It was more growing muscle, gaining muscle in your physique, starting eating better with nutrition and stuff. You had an advantage, and I want to touch on this now, because we'll probably pull this up in terms of on the clips, and we'll probably pull this up as a photo, but you used to ice skate, which I swear to God, that's what got you your mobility for all the lifts you do.
100% it did. It was probably about 6, and it's like classic 6-year-old birthday party. You invite the entire class to go. I got invited, and this kid was hosting an ice skating like rink party.
Yeah.
So when put some skates on, I had a fantastic time. But immediately after, there was some patch ice, which is where it's prioritized ice, just the figure skaters go on, it's a training session for them. And I remember just stood at the side of the rink watching them figure skate, and I was like, that I want to do.
Fair.
Absolutely begged my parents, and they, to be fair, held off initially because they were like, it's an expensive sport. You've seen it once. You're a 6-year-old kid. You're probably just infatuated with it. Continue swimming and football with your brothers.
Have they not met powerlifters before?
So then I continued to harp on about it and continued wanting to do it. Had roller skates at home and was just roller skating constantly every day. And they're like, oh no, actually she does
enjoy it.
Just kind of want to do this.
Fair.
So then started in lessons, and they had like little grading sessions and just kind of work up through the grades. And then there was a coach that was willing to take me on as a private client, so I worked with them for a bit, and then basically continued that right up until I left for uni at 18. So kind of from 7 to 18 was skating 3-ish times a week with an off-ice session in the week as well.
Fair.
So mobility has never been an issue because the flexibility's there, and lower body posterior chain strength.
There's a lot of isometric strength as well.
Yeah.
And off 1 foot, if I'm right. I mean, I'm not an expert at all in figure skating, but isn't it a lot of like holding yourself on 1 foot, balancing?
Yeah. So there's a lot of awareness of kind of what side of the foot you're putting pressure on, whether it's the front, mid, or heel of the foot. So, and all of that translates into powerlifting, particularly in squat when you're generating torque and stuff.
A lot of power, yeah.
So having that kind of proprioception awareness of where your body is in space, helps an awful lot as well. Which I suspect is probably why when I was first bench pressing, I didn't look at the bar.
This was a revelation, wasn't it? This was a revelation because, like, what do you look at? Like, if you think now, what do you look at in a bench press? You normally think, oh no, do I look at the bar? Do I look at the ceiling? Just not look at anything, to just blank stare. But that's where it came from, was having that own awareness of, you know, what are you doing? How are you even? Where's your rise in the rep? That sort of thing. So that mainly come from that, I think. Yeah.
So like when you're squatting, most people generally find a vague fixed point somewhere in the future to get their head set in the right position and then just go. Similar for deadlift. So I just did the same for bench. So I just got my head set, found a point on the ceiling, and just pressed. And it was only when I was chatting to other powerlifters who were very good at bench and found out what they were looking at, and they were like, no, look at the bar.
Yeah, look at the bar. Makes sense when you think about it. It makes sense.
It's like, the one lift where you could have the benefit of looking at the bar
and seeing where it's going.
I just wasn't.
I wonder if many people do. I wonder.
I recommend it. It helps my bench press an awful lot.
If you bench, comment below where you look. If you look at the bar, say. If you don't, just say. But if you don't know, worth a shot. Trust me. But yeah, that sort of awareness came from ice skating. Like, what was the sport like? Was it a lonely sport?
So it's actually really similar, to be honest. You find a coach that you hopefully have a very good relationship with, and they understand you and you understand them, and you develop like a coach-client shorthand speak, and they can read my micro expressions and how I'm doing better than I can. Yeah. Again, crosses over into powerlifting very well.
So well.
The training's very much the same. So this is excluding pairs skating. So I was always a solo skater. So you train normally on patch ice, which has got a few of you on there. Similar to in the gym, you can share racks. If you're at a gym that has lots of lovely racks, you're often all training together.
Yes.
So you chat between sessions, but ultimately, when I step up to the bar or step onto the rink to do a routine, this is me and my focus, and that's it. And then afterwards, I'll have a bit of a chat and we can talk about it. And then when you're at competitions, everyone, I was quite fortunate, was quite friendly in figure skating, and in the Northwest powerlifting scene, everyone's actually really supportive.
Yes, they are. Yeah, awesome.
I will say I am better at powerlifting than I was figure skating.
Okay, fair.
And figure skating was very much, I enjoy it, I'm going to be as good as I can at it, but I also appreciate that I am a club level skater, and that's kind of it for me. Like, there's not grander plans or anything in the future.
Whereas powerlifting's a different story.
It is my sport. So I'm a doctor. I'm currently a Kells surgical trainee with a view to applying to orthopaedic specialist training. So it means I've done my foundation training, which was at the height of a global pandemic.
Yes.
And then applied into a surgical training pathway, which isn't specific to a particularly surgical type, but you still rotate through all of them. And then we'll hopefully start finding and then working on broken bones for a living. Means your day is either 0 miles per hour or 100 miles per hour. That's generally the way it tends to work.
So obviously with your job and stuff, that's you work a lot of like shift work. You work a lot of night shifts. Trying
They're
to
bad for your health.
man, like I think I'm not sure if it's entirely true, but I've seen somewhere like it can be compared, working night shifts regularly for years can be compared to like a carcinogenic effect on health.
So it's not a proven carcinogen, like it's
Yeah.
not up there with smoking, but
it's dangerous for health.
It's considered. So there's also studies that even just on our daylight saving change gap, we can see statistically that when you have an hour less sleep, there's an increased number of medical events attending A&E, and that's just an hour.
Wow, Jesus Christ! So working nights is I've always said, if as long as I can help it. I mean, my job certainly doesn't require me to work nights, but I can't imagine it. I like my sleep too much.
You get better at managing it, to be fair. You do get good at managing your sleep, and you find a pattern that works for you. And then I know, coming out of nights, what works for me, kind of when to eat, when to catch a nap, where to sleep as well. So like, will I get away with a couch nap? Do I need to actually go up to bed and just be regimented with my alarm? And it's like, you get 3 hours and that's it. And I say this because I'm guilty of it, particularly in powerlifting, you progressively overload across the training block. So if I plan, so I predict roughly how I should trend across the training block, and then whether it's through shift work or even if it's not nighttime shifts, I've just had a very busy day shift and I'm then planning on training. I was very bad at putting my training session in context of what else was going on in my life. And I was like, actually, I just need to cut myself a bit of slack.
Yeah. And
training, so RPE in particular, has been very useful. So regardless of what's loaded on the bar, if I'm training at the prescribed RPE, my muscles and my whole CNS is probably getting the stimulus that it needs. Yeah.
So for that day.
Exactly.
Perfect. So that's like, again, those who aren't even aware of what RPE is, so rate of perceived exertion, it's a perfect, like, in a way, a perfect metric to use or intensity to use for that session. So it doesn't matter if the week before you lifted, like I'd say for a squat 120, if you're down for an RPE 7 to 8 that day, you lift at a 7 or 8 that day. Never mind what you've done last week. So many variables can change. You might be on a night shift, you might have just not had some great sleep, you're stressed as hell, you're just tired, not in the mood. So that's why, for that reason, would you reckon RPE is quite very useful to use as a shift worker?
So long as you're honest about it. Because it's when you start kidding yourself about RPE that it gets a bit dangerous. And on both sides, you tailor a bit too light in your RPE, in which case you're not getting the stimulus you need. Yeah. Or you kind of lie to yourself and trick yourself and you overload the bar, which just increases injury risk. Yeah,
we've all done it. Like,
yeah, it's easy.
We've all done
easier
it.
Said than done, isn't it? Yeah.
Like when you're outside of that bubble in training, you're like, yep, let's just keep it tame today. Let's keep it, simple. But when you're in that moment, it's like, nah, let's just go for it. But sticking to the RPEs, typically what we recommend. So yeah, trying to balance obviously training with work, trying to plan in advance is quite useful. How do you find that affects, let's say, competition time? Like, how do you think it affects that for you?
So we've technically competed with both. So I've done competitions where I've come off nights the week before. Didn't go very well. No. I've come off competitions where I was working right before and tried to train as normal before, and it kind of went, okay. Yeah. And then most recently, the last 2 comps, I was like, I would rather just go in and train once the week before comp. Yeah. Because these are what my shifts are like. And that's much better. Probably from the first, it's going to sound stupid, but probably from the first few training blocks, and we did a first max out, just like an informal one up at Dedicate, and had a lot of fun with it. Yes, I'll put them on the recordings now on the video. Old fumbly me. And then we had a little debrief session afterwards, which I thoroughly recommend, by the way, if you're competing or going for max outs with a coach. Have a little time to process in a notes app, just thought dump everything, and then have a little debrief session. We found it very useful. Yeah. And remember talking about potential competitions, kind of the prep that would go into it, what would be different. Because the other thing is, you can do a sport and not compete in it, and still have a very lovely time
Oh,
doing it as well.
100%,
There's
yeah.
plenty of people who train for powerlifting and will never and doesn't even want to compete in it.
Mm.
Because you are on a stage, you are on a platform, everyone's looking at you. I remember there was one of the check-in sessions we were doing and we just kind of pulled up Northwest records and roughly what people were lifting, and then looked at qualifying totals from there. And I remember looking at the British ones for the weight class that I was in at the time, and I was like, they're not crazy far away.
Not far away, yeah, because that was Spring Showdown, right? That was like
First ever comp, yeah.
360 kilos.
Yeah. Which
That's
I
insane.
made on my first comp, but it was too late to enter the British for that year.
Yeah.
And then by the time the next cycle came round, I'd had to reset the QT, which we did in Manchester.
That's right. So you've done Spring and then Spring again?
Spring, Manchester, Spring, Brits.
So I literally got your stat up here. So you got a 360 total, a GLP of 75, and that was composed of 135 kilo squat, 60 kilo bench, and 165 kilo deadlift, which at 69 kilo body weight, which was like probably at the time like what 66, 67 by itself, for a first time comp is up there. It's pretty damn good, mate.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
Because I didn't realise it at the time, because I remember chatting to people whilst I was training and prepping for comp, and they were talking about what goals you had, and I was like, oh, I want to try and hit a QT, and they're like, for what? And I was like, well, the British, and they were like, it's your first one.
It's your first competition,
Calm
man.
down.
Enjoy it. Which, to be fair, yeah, like first time competitors enjoy the first competition, but you're in your mind, you're like
I was like, no, these are the numbers.
QT, which I was guilty of in my first one,
Yeah.
like 100%.
But to be fair, because of that, you were very good at managing, and you were like, what do you want more? And I was like, well, so go have fun, but like, also these are the numbers.
Yeah, like go have fun. Yeah, these are what I want, really. But mate, that was phenomenal. So you've done Spring Showdown, you've done Spring again, and then Manchester, right?
So Manchester, then the other spring.
Great, brilliant.
So yeah, so Manchester was a lovely comp, and would 100% do it again. Probably one of my worst ever comps,
That was a rodeo.
but I learned the most from it, which is why I have a lovely little special place for it in my heart. And
What did you learn?
so a lot of things that do work for me that we've continued to carry forward. So weaning caffeine intake in the training block commitments comp to appreciate the benefit more. The fact that doing night shifts within a week of competing is a very bad idea.
Maybe,
Horrendous
maybe.
idea. Being aware of how many lifters are in your weight class and planning breaks and stuff appropriately.
Yeah.
We were caught out a little
It was
bit.
6, wasn't it?
That was 7.
Start with 7, someone pulled out, and then
Yeah.
it was 6. Like
And
resting 6 minutes between.
you can get
Tenth one.
get away with it on squat and bench because they're having to change
Yeah,
heights and stuff. On deadlifts, the turnaround is rapid.
they are rapid.
But it then meant that when we were prepping for the second Spring Showdown earlier this year, we ran certain, or I did anyway when I was training, ran certain sessions where I was like, I'm being regimented with the break I have between these sets. I'm going to run it as if I'm conditioning.
Yeah, which is again a good habit to get into. That was Manchester. Your first time Manchester was again different stage, different platform, different even jury.
I was about to say, it was
Jury.
the first time lifting with a jury and I got caught out on it.
They are pretty strict. So for
Rightly
those who don't
so.
know, it's like a jury is like basically it's like a VAR in a comp, right? Like you have a second set of eyes, a judges panel, and if they're ever in doubt, like if you get one red light, the jury will look at it. They'll review it with a fine eye. They replay the recording and they will make a decision. It can get overturned. So if you're open squat, big stage, big platform, the nerves you had to manage through that was terrifying. Like, but at the time, even I thought at the time, like this is going to be one of them things where, okay, it's a different comp, different style. It's lessons, isn't it? It's like if you fail that time and then that's it, it's a failure technically. If you fail each lift and then never compete again, it's a failure.
Yeah.
If you fail the lift or two and then you done it again next time in terms of getting better, that's just a lesson, right? So if you fail and then quit, it's failure. If you fail, you carry on, it's a lesson.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was pretty hard.
And it's also, if you fail, whether it's on a platform in the comp where the stakes are a bit higher or if it's a failed lift in training, if I just accept that for what it is I gain absolutely nothing from it.
Mm.
Whereas if I sit back and dissect it and debrief about it once my original tantrum has been had,
Yes.
and then I can actually learn something from it, we can go forward and actually
That was a
better.
roadie over comp. I remember that. It was
Yeah.
great. It was great though. Like,
This
it was
is the
good
thing,
comp.
I still absolutely loved the comp, even though it was arguably one of my worst.
It was an interesting day out.
And would thoroughly recommend anyone competing in Manchester if they reach like the GLP and like I can.
Just beware, there will be a jury, and it will be different.
And it is a stage with like proper stage lights.
Mate, it's warm as well.
Cramps a thing.
Oh, I had that on my last one. It was horrendous. It's real.
Judging when you're ready to compete isn't a matter of what's loaded on the bar. It's can I squat to technical depth? Can I do all the technicalities of the lift? Even if you're just moving the bar through that motion, you are eligible to compete. A lot of people can get hung up on what they want to load, what numbers they want to hit, and I'm guilty of it as well. But actually just go have your first comp and have some fun.
Yeah.
And then warm up room. So I'm one of those anxious people who arrives like 2 hours before something's meant to happen, because I would rather wait at the venue than wait.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
But it's simple things like having an agenda like we do, when we need to leave, when we need to get there by, what time weigh-in's in.
Yeah.
Weigh-in is almost always done in lifter order as well. So if you're in the second flight, so normally they split lifters into different weight flights, lifting flights. They'll weigh flight A in before they weigh flight B in.
Yeah.
So,
Just being aware of that.
You have a bit of grace period. Time of year. So I've competed in spring, autumn, and winter. Venues are cold. Venues are warm.
Yes.
Bring coats because you're just going to get cold.
And comfy clothes.
And comfy clothes.
Crocs. All right, bring Crocs.
Or sliders. Oh, just stay.
Just bring something comfy.
Yeah.
Because again, it's a lot of waiting around half the time before you start, isn't it, as well?
Exactly. And we weigh in 2 hours-ish before we lift.
Yeah.
So aggressive salt cuts and diuretic use and water cuts and stuff like that. It's a dangerous game of powerlifting because you've not got the time to rehydrate and salt back up appropriately. So weight classes are just a way of categorising people. They're not a certain pride. They're not a number to get your head attached to.
Yeah.
They're literally just where can you lift.
That's fair. That's fair. And it goes without saying that, like, if you're in two minds of where to go in terms of weight class, and you're sort of straddling in between, go with whatever's going to be easier, and not that means you dieting so much to your first comp, because your first comp you want to focus on strength and feeling good and feeling ready and feeling up for it. The last thing you want to be thinking about is, I'm so hungry and I'm thirsty because I'm not like drank. I've been there where I've not even drank, like, I think the 6 p.m. cap is my hydration.
Because you've had some very aggressive cuts.
Very aggressive.
I've gotten away with very little need to cut at all.
But to be fair, you can do many things, and again, I've probably got a video somewhere of what to do in terms of a weight cut, but in terms with recommended sort of where you sit, a few kilos above your comp weight. If you're really looking competing at a quote decent level, I'd say sit a few kilos up above comp weight. If not, then just compete at one above. Do you know what I mean?
Only caveat I would add to that is I'm fairly fortunate. I can keep my weight fairly consistent throughout an entire menstrual cycle.
Yes.
Some women are not that lucky. They all onboard, offboard a lot of water, depending on whereabouts they are. So for some, just knowing what you're tracking and knowing what your fluctuations are, then mean that you can allow for a certain buffer. So that if you are extremely bloated on one day because it's just mistimed or wrong timing of the month, you know that you've still got a bit of grace to make weight. So you have a lot more to consider over a training block, right? So your hormones cycle on a 24-hour basis.
Yeah.
Mine will run over a month.
Yep.
So there will be times of the month where it's just headspace more than anything as well. Like hormonally, you're just not in the mood to train. It's still a case of just actually going and doing the thing, and just going in and doing something is better than doing anything.
Tick the box, and then that's the bonus.
Exactly. understanding even amongst women, everyone has a slightly different cycle and experiences their cycle slightly differently. You have some women who are very pro hormonal control and will use that to their advantage. You have some who are like, no, I would rather have the benefits of just being off hormones and running my own natural cycle.
Yeah.
Learning and experimenting what works for you, which you only get through giving it time and training over blocks in a certain way to see how it works. Chatting to other women is also very useful. There's a lot of research going on at the moment, particularly with Bobby Butters and her university guys, about female athletes training, those on hormonal control, those not on hormonal control. And it's personal preference. Some women would rather be on hormonal control so they can categorically manipulate that they will not be menstruating when they're competing. Yeah. Some would rather have
that reassurance,
and some would rather have the benefits of a normal chemical hormonal cycle and run from there.
Oh, fair. So to be fair, that does affect in essence when you are competition time. Say if you're a few grams away, depending on what part of the cycle you're in, you know, as a male, mine will just be right. I'm this weight before the day before. I can just, you know, expect to be this weight consistently. That's fine. With women, though, that can be a whole different kettle of fish. Like your weight can fluctuate from over a kilo and a half to sometimes even 2 kilos, depending on body weight, at any given moment. So, what would your advice be in terms with weight, like making weight cuts for women who have a quote regular menstrual cycle?
I think the biggest thing is separating how you look and the number on the scale are two very completely different things and used in two completely different ways. So I personally track calories and I track body weight fairly regularly to understand what it is.
Yeah.
I also fully recognise that is separate to how I look in the mirror and how I dress and how I style and all of that. So separating those two, I think, will do mental health the world of good.
Absolutely.
When you start conflating them and your scale weight becomes the be all end all of how you then perceive your self confidence.
Yeah, it's like
it can get a bit of a toxic.
Yeah, 100%.
I've learned what works for me, and I will generally sit probably about a kilo under where I need to compete at on a normal eating all the salt, eating all the fibre. I've gone through a full 4 weeks of my cycle and stayed ish a kilo below.
Yeah.
I know that then I will comfortably weigh in regardless.
Fair.
Because we'll do gentle fibre cuts and gentle salt cuts leading in.
Yeah.
And that just offers the rest of the water and can weigh in.
So like constantly having some sort of eye over what body weight you are and just how your body behaves as an individual, because again, it doesn't really matter what works for this person, that person, it's what works for you as a human by yourself, which matters the most.
And then the other side of that is if you are not in a headspace to be able to do that and it's just going to send your head in a spin, you are better off competing at a weight class that you can make regardless.
Yeah, right, because it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, if you know that you can stand in that weight class whilst holding a 5 kilogram plate, then that is probably the safer headspace for you to be in.
100%.
Particularly if it's your first couple of comps and you're at club level comps, there's no reason to get that stressed about it.
Literally not. Like, if you're doing it just to compete in recreationally, don't forget it's something that you do in your spare time. Unless you're elite level, like SBD sponsored athlete, you do this for fun. So why create that stress and why create that barrier to potentially even hate it?
Exactly.
And screw with your mind. So that'll be, to be fair, that's some solid advice for women out there who are looking to compete and are worried about their weight. Tracking from a regular basis can really be the saving grace for that. Let's talk about your last comp, Britt. That was a hell of a ride, mate. That was a hell of a ride.
It was so much fun.
Wow. So, like, when did you first qualify for that? You qualified for that last year, right?
First comp.
First comp. Well,
Yeah.
That was last year.
No,
it was. Yeah. It was 2023.
Hit the QT.
Oh my god! Yeah. Jesus
didn't
Christ.
hit the deadline to make it.
That's right. That is a flex, but yeah, that Brit was fantastic, mate. Like, so we'll obviously chat about each individual lift as we just naturally remember it, and we'll pull a few clips on the screen as well.
Yeah.
As well as some photos, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you White Lights Media for the photographs.
Have you got them yet?
They're en route. So
Brilliant.
they're always gone through, they're on the way.
Brilliant. So Brits was, again, if for those who don't know, this is like a national level comp, and to qualify for that off the bat of the first competition, pretty damn good. So Wolverhampton.
Yeah.
This was a 3-day lifting event? 4-day?
Four.
4-day lifting event.
Something like 360 lifters.
There was a
across-
lot of lifters.
A lot of lifters.
Big lights, big 2 platforms, which was a new thing as well for pretty much everyone to see as well.
Which, to be fair to the organisers, they managed extremely well.
Yes.
I was not off-put by the other platform at all.
Which was surprising,
Yeah.
because you'd think with 2 platforms,
I'm going to hear squat and hear press.
Yeah, your commands gonna be everywhere. But that prep itself, like the prep we had, was pretty damn good, despite shift work and I think training involved. So training in a gym where you felt you had everything at your disposal was a game changer for you, I think.
I also have the benefit of having other lifters at Vault who have done big platforms before,
Yeah.
whether it's Manchester or British, and I have the benefit of lifters who've competed internationally, and
Yeah.
hearing advice from them, and it's just invaluable.
Yeah, it's like that community by itself is priceless to have. Like disregard the environment, the community, the people, the experience. 'Cause that's what inevitably that's how you progress in powerlifting, is advice from here, there, everywhere, and it's people who've lived it as well. So training environment was a game changer for you, I think, which just made you go that little notch further. But the prep itself, despite the shift work, that was insane, man. That was pretty damn good. Trying to balance that with work and exams.
Yes.
And exams, you're training 3 times a week,
Which
But-
we found is the sweet spot
Yeah.
for this.
which is totally doable, right? So
Yeah.
again, anyone there who's stressing how much to train, 3 times a week was a pretty well balanced. We managed to hit everything pretty well. We managed to have a pretty successful peek into the comp. When we got there, like, first impressions.
It was just this big venue, you're surrounded by lifters. It felt you were treated like an athlete.
Yeah,
Which,
it was right.
yeah, which
It was pretty cool. I got the lanyard.
got the lanyard, had all the kit check, which was really smooth. You weren't left waiting for ages.
No, yeah.
The warm-up room was probably one of the best I've been in.
I agree. 6 combo racks, but it was
Yeah.
pretty well
Like,
managed.
considering you had the 2 flights of 69 lifters warming up, and then you also had the second platform that was offset by 40 minutes, and 2 flights from that also needing to come and warm up.
Yeah.
It didn't feel crowded or clustered. I didn't feel our warm-ups were rushed.
No.
And the actual warm-up space itself was nice and secluded from the general public.
Yeah.
Which makes a big difference.
Yes. So if you're in a comp where you're on top of people and the warm-up room is just in front of everyone else, it can get pretty distracting, especially if you want to just get your head down and just get lifting and warm up properly, and no one's like down your ear trying to speak to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty well managed. There was 6 racks, and the way in which separate flights was warmed at different times, that was pretty cool as well. What was the nerves like? I mean, big platform, man. Big platform for the first.
Big platform. You're naturally nervous. Oddly, I was probably more calm than from Manchester, and I think that's just the benefit of having competed more.
Yeah.
And obviously we've done more comps together now, so actually just having you there is a calming effect anyway.
Yeah, having someone there to calm your nerves, handler, a coach.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, I don't know, would you, in another world, would you recommend people take the friend there, as their handler?
It depends on how that friend is with you. So the one thing I know that I can guarantee for you is, even if I was to just go and not have a single thought in my head other than the commands for the lifts, I would still have my warm-ups on time, the bar would be loaded to what it needs to be, my temps would be submitted, and you'll have me round in that warm-up room and not let me get too cold. And I don't need to put a single thought into doing that, because I can know and trust that you're doing all of that anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm a relatively calm lifter. I'm not there with smelling salts and slaps on the back. That's just
Nah,
not for me.
it's not your style. It's some people's style.
Exactly. So you need to find someone who can match that energy.
Yeah. Not someone who's like, you know, you can imagine me slapping your back and for the first time, by the way, like imagine that in a British platform, me slapping your back and screaming down, yeah, let's go. Imagine you'd be like, okay, don't do that again. Please don't do that again. That was really off-putting.
And then you do need a handler who understands powerlifting and just how the event's going to go.
Yeah.
So it's simple things like the estimated time to next lift, being able to interpret that.
That is fantastic. Do you know what? Not every region has that.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so if not every region has it, you then need a handler who's capable of doing it.
Yes. So this is the on-screen sort of timer. It's ATTNL. Am I butchering that? Yeah.
Approximate time to next lift.
Yeah. And that just basically tells you how long you've got until you're on that platform. I remember getting there. Can you remember getting in one room? And I was like, where's the screen? Where's the board? As soon as I find the board, it goes in the clock, it goes in the countdown, and then I'm happy.
You were way more relaxed once you found the screen as well.
Until then, it's like, where's it gone? Where's it gone? Is it up yet? Is it up yet? Because the names can be up sometimes, but the time can't be, and you're like, where's it gone? Where's it gone? But yeah, as soon as you find a board and a time, my best advice probably for anyone, coach, handler, anyone, even competitor, is make it a note of that, put it on a stopwatch, put it on your phone, because you'll need that timer to gauge how many warm-ups you're doing, just even how to manage your own rest recoveries, etc. So definitely find that. Let's talk about your attempts.
Yeah.
So obviously, as always, we had a plan going in, and we had low, medium, high for each one, because there's nice options.
I think that plan starts forming weeks out as well.
Yeah, it gets built over a certain amount of time, and obviously when we're there, it can change. It can change. It's not set in stone. It's just, let's have this as an outline and anything else will just on the day. So your open squat, that's what each open lift and just how you felt, if you can remember. It wasn't that long ago, was it?
It wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago. 140 kilos, man.
Yeah.
That was your comp before second attempt. So you opened on your second attempt. We got in Spring Showdown 2024.
Which sounds wild when you put it in that context. But then you look at how the training blocks, like the two before the actual comp went, 140 is actually a super reasonable opening attempt.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a comfortable lift. I could probably pause it for a single rep if I needed to. And it's a lift that I know I can reliably hit depth on.
Yeah.
Which, when you know you're facing a jury,
is important.
Don't give them questions
No,
about.
don't give any reason to think otherwise.
No.
So 140 kilo squat, the first one on the board. Do you reckon before that was like it's like any competition, isn't it? You want to get that number on the board first.
Your first attempt in each of the domains is the most nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And then once you've actually got a number put up for that lift, you can then just have a bit of fun with it.
100%. Then start to relax a little bit. But that first one needs to be an easy single, not too, obviously not too low, but just be neutral with it. Don't be like, oh, I can do that for X amount of reps, or be reasonable with it, something that you can hit easily for depth. And that was at the time a number for you. Second attempt 150. What are your thoughts on that?
Which, again, it's a number that I have moved before.
Yeah.
It's not a number I'd open on because it's less reliable than 140.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd also conditioned taking 10 kilo jumps from 140 to 150 a couple of times. So I knew, and it's the mentality of going in, it's a lift that I know I've done before. It's a lift that I know I've done to depth before.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and do the same thing.
Exactly. So that was second attempt. Came on for the third attempt, 160, didn't manage to get it.
Yeah.
How, walking on the platform, if you remember, walking on the platform, was you nervous, like for that last lift? Did you know at that point?
So, I knew it would be a struggle, and I was ready to fight for it.
Yeah.
In hindsight, because, spoiler alert, I'm better at deadlifting than I am anything else.
And said, you mean, what?
In hindsight, and to be fair, we've done it in other comps before, we are slightly conservative with my third attempt squat to save gas in the tank for deadlifts.
Yeah.
Which I don't regret the lift attempts we made at the British, and I'm pretty sure I came off of the 150 attempt to you, and I said, 155 is the safe choice. 160 because
We're the Brits. Let's just have fun with it and let's just go. Which is, again, not a bad thing to do.
And we'd already established that it's my first British comp. I'm a very small fish in a very big pond at this comp. I just want to go and have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
I think we'd said because I think I was ranked 15th going in out of like 32 lifters. I was like, I would like to stay within the top 15, and as long as we're around about there,
yeah,
it's fine. So I was like, 155 safe, 160, but let's just try it.
Yep.
Unracking the bar, it actually felt okay. I was like, oh, maybe I do have this. Went down, definitely hit depth.
So, it was a grind.
Yeah.
You got like what, halfway up?
Maybe just under.
Yeah.
Which is always my stickiest point on squats anyway.
Yeah.
If I can get above that, I know the reps are 100% made.
Yeah.
It's just fighting through that. And the spotters were amazing. They didn't grab too early. They waited for me, and I was stuck static for a bit trying to push through, and then I could feel myself slowly slip south.
Yeah.
You can't allow any downwards movement.
No.
The minute that starts happening, just bail out the rep.
Do you think being a posterior dominant squatter in that way, because your ascent is quite posterior dominant at times, do you reckon that has a disadvantage when you're trying to grind through a rep? Depends.
It depends how you grind though.
Yeah.
So it looks horrendous. It's not a pretty squat in the slightest.
Yeah.
Because your hips come up first because you're essentially trying to find your deadlift start position to bias your hams and glutes. So you look like you're pitching forwards. If you're not properly pulling the bar down into your shoulders and retracting properly,
and you're not tight,
the bar will roll up.
Yeah.
Which again,
it's a no man's land.
It's no man's land.
No one wants that.
You understand that that's how you lift and how you grind. You can work through it. It just looks really ugly.
To some people, it might look like, oh, what the hell are you doing? Bad form. But like that forward lean, depends on your leverages and how strong you are at that point, is totally safe to do. It's totally fine. But yeah, that last attempt, we had that grind. Any more sort of effort towards battling that, and he probably wouldn't have had any gas in the tank left.
I feel a bit gap.
So we managed to do 150 squat onto bench, which again, bench itself had massive growth in the last block.
Are we committed to a bulk?
Yes, we actually committed.
Oddly worked.
oddly worked. So we managed to open on 70 kilos, which again is huge. Like you didn't even get that for a final attempt in spring, because your final attempt in the last spring showdown you done was 65 kilos.
Yeah, it's my first ever bodyweight bench on platform.
Opening on it is pretty damn good, mate. So we went from 70, 72, and obviously the jumps you take on bench are quite small. We hit that 72.5 kilos. Only place to go is 75. Didn't manage 75, but it's like, as far as 2.5 kilos is worth, probably wasn't worth putting any more effort into that to then crank it back up. Deadlifts, the one we were waiting for, like we had some pretty high numbers on there we booked. Like
we did.
The overall reaching goal, like in your aspirations, is to pull 200 kilos.
I want to pull and then the immediate goal after that is 210.
Mate, we managed to open on 170, and again 170 as an opener.
Second attempt from previous goal.
Second attempt, which on a Brit platform, pretty damn good. Grip. So grip was a big issue in the last prep, and we're talking like torn hands, bloodied hands, not even a strength issue.
No.
It was purely not being able to actually hold a bar.
Yeah, and I've also now realised I would rather tear my hands than get the super deep blisters that I was getting.
Yeah.
Because it just swells your finger, so then your entire grip's offset.
Yeah.
So I tried hook gripping. It doesn't work for me.
Nope, not for me.
No, not for me. But we did play around. We found a way to manage the problem on the day.
And to be fair, it was actually pretty good. Like the hands behaved.
Yeah.
We actually. So the week before, it completely popped, right? Like the blister popped.
It had been popping, bleeding, tearing on a weekly basis.
Oh wow.
For 8 weeks leading into comp.
And having an issue of just like the hands can't cope with this right now.
It's really frustrating.
I bet. Like it's not even a strength thing. It's literally a skin thing.
Yeah.
So any advice for like people who have torn hands or hands keep tearing? Like what would your advice be for them? Because you've gotten pretty good at hand care over the last few weeks.
If you have the time and ability to just use straps and let it heal up, do that.
Yeah.
We didn't, because I can't use straps competing,
Nope.
so I need to actually just condition to lift the weight. You use hand cream. O'Keefe's
right? Yes.
100%
Yes.
the one to go for. Moisturise regularly. Pumice stones, and just actually keeping your calluses there, but at a lower profile.
Yeah.
And then we played around with actually just how my hands are positioned.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because on the notes, weren't it?
Yeah. So I know it was a positioning issue because it's just one finger.
Yeah.
So we ended up just having to more internally rotate that left hand just to offset the pressure a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it was just a case of like disaster prepping for the day. So taking some paracetamol so that pain goes away,
Yeah.
so I can just like grip and hold the bar.
Yeah.
Because trying to grind through a rep whilst you're having pain and your entire body's telling you to let go of pain.
Which we said, didn't we? We said if it comes to it, and if you need to go through that pain to hold that bar, just fucking hold it.
Yeah.
We prepared for that, mate. You brought paracetamol.
Put paracetamol, put steri strips,
Yep.
put some needles.
Yeah, just in case I need to pop them. I remember walking around with like sterile wipes in my pocket, nearly in my pocket. I was like, wow, this feels quite strange.
Yeah.
Is this the thing?
And then I learned where to pop it from.
Yeah.
Which would then work better if I'm trying to grip a bar. So, but long story short, get your hands in a good health.
Yeah.
Maintain.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, it wasn't even an issue on that day. We second attempt 185, which 185 kilos, man, like that. What was you even weighing at? 67.5 kilos. That is insane.
Yeah.
What, like, I'm gonna use my calculator because that's quick math. So 185 divided by, let's say 67. Yeah, 67.5. 67.5. That's 2.75. Times body weight.
We're getting up there.
That's almost 3 times body weight.
Yeah.
That is insane. So that would be, what would 3 times body weight be?
That's where the 210 number. Oh, it's close to 210.
It's 202.5 if you pull it at 67.5 kilo.
Which is where I've generally competed.
Yeah. Your last few weigh-ins have been 67.
Yeah.
But yeah, bloody hell, that's quite a tall order, mate. So second attempt we loaded 185.
Yeah.
And again, we thought at that point we had on the notes, if say for instance that 185 or /187, 190 was pretty rapid, we had that on the board to load 200 kilos.
Yeah, because we'd partly driven by like trying to get gripped in a state, so it was having to hold the deadlift bar for as little time as possible.
Yes.
So we basically stripped back all the warm-ups that I needed to do, and that included taking larger kilo jumps in the warm-up room.
Big jumps, low reps.
Yeah. So that's where that pacing came from, because 170 is a very comfortable deadlift opener for me, and then because we'd conditioned 15 kilo jumps, that dumped us on 185, which again is a number I have pulled a couple of times before and been fine on. And then it was coming off after the 185, and I was like, oh no, I'm quite tired now.
And then we loaded 190. Like,
yeah,
to even load 190 kilos, like that's, I know most guys who can't pull that, and that is pretty damn strong, mate. So 190 kilos on the bar. Okay, we didn't get it up. Did it break ground? It broke ground?
It got to my knees.
Got to your
And
knees,
then
yeah.
it was entirely a strength issue, thankfully. I say thankfully because I would rather fail on strength than fail
Then
because
grip.
of technique or grip or some other red card.
But getting 190 to your knees, mate, that was pretty strong. So ended up on a 407.5 kilo total. So again, total PB, everything was good. Any lessons from that day? Any sort of reflections just for yourself?
So it probably one of the most fun comps I've been at.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It was a big day out, it was a fun day out. I got PBs across the board, comp PBs, which again, can't really ask for more. I got a total PB. It's odd because if you'd have asked me before, would I be happy pulling in comp essentially what I'd pulled in training the week before, would I be happy with it? Probably would have said no.
Yeah.
But actually managing that in a comp environment and with everything going on, I still had a fantastic day out.
Brilliant.
There are obviously things I'd change and repace, but that's only with the benefit of hindsight.
100%, yeah. 100%. You can always, again, hindsight's another thing, isn't it, like to say, but the more you get into this game, the more you reflect actually as a person, as an athlete, and just how to manage yourself and train up to that point. Best you can do. Like I said before, failing lifts and then quitting is failing. Failing lifts and then proceed on to the next one. It's a lesson. You can't learn a lesson, don't do it again. So two more things before to close with. One is, what would your advice be to, I'm going to say both men and women starting powerlifting? Mainly women. What would your advice be for women for starting powerlifting?
I'm a staunch advocate for everyone should do a form of strength training.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think women should do it.
Yes.
So oddly, the whole reason I started getting into strength training was I was working in orthopedics and fixing broken hips on a daily basis, and operatively you can feel the difference in good quality bone versus osteopenic, osteoporotic.
Yeah.
If you want to try and preserve your bone health, you need to constantly stress it through, physical load and strength training, which you get from progressive overload.
Mm-hmm.
That progressive overload might start with a bodyweight squat. That's fine.
Yeah.
You are still moving, you're still putting it through motion. Good nutrition, good diet, having some vitamin D in your life, having some calcium and all your other bone minerals. That was the entire reason I got into powerlifting, was to old lady body.
Yeah, because you've experienced what that is like firsthand, through what you do. So someone who, again, old lady who doesn't strength train, who has never strength trained, and the brittleness in her bone, versus someone who strength trains, got stronger bones.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
It does also happen that if you take for granted now just being able to lift something up and put it on the top shelf. If you don't train, there's elderly people in this population who can't place an item above head height.
Yeah.
They can't reach an item down from above head height. And it's an entirely functional movement that we take for granted because we can just do it now.
It is. And have you seen, perfect time here to actually say this, and man, it gets me every year, man. Have you seen that Christmas advert with the kettlebell and the guy?
Yeah. But that's
my heart. If you haven't seen it, what's it called? What one is it?
I think it's one of the John Lewis ads.
It's where the old guy puts the kettlebell and he lifts it for as long as he can. Oh man, that gets me every year.
And it's just repaired to lift his grandson or something.
Yeah.
And put a decoration on the tree.
But that is what strength training can do. It's just prepare you to do everyday things. And if that thing is lifting something above your head, picking your kid up, it's that everyone, I agree, everyone should do some form of strength training in their life. 100%.
If it happens to be powerlifting that you find is your jam, so pick a strength training that you enjoy doing. Don't try and fit a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
There are plenty of other avenues of hybrid strength training, mixed strength training, Olympic lifting, powerlifting. Just do what you want.
Yeah.
And it's something that you can commit to and you enjoy doing. If it happens to be powerlifting, find yourself a powerlifting coach early. It is worth the investment of learning good technique from the ground up, learning injury prevention from the ground up, because you see lifters now, you've got incredible sub-juniors and juniors coming through.
They are insane.
And then you have lifters that are in their 30s and 40s. For those sub-juniors and juniors now to maintain their career, they need to not get injured.
Yeah.
And having that injury prevention and awareness early on is really important, which if you're going to the gym and powerlifting for the first time, you don't know it.
No.
And you're not meant to know it, because
not everyone's born knowing, are they? Same as lifting weights and same as getting strength training, no one's born knowing how to do it. So yeah, getting someone who knows what they're doing and who has a background in it, has experience, and has a level head. Just getting you through that first, and then obviously progression onto it.
I was also fortunate that the first coach I started with, we have a good coach-client relationship.
It's pretty cool.
It's really good.
It's good. I'd say that is important as well. Having a good rapport, having a good relationship with client as well. It's a must. You can work with a coach, they can be the best coach in the world, but if that relationship is just stale or just stagnant, it's definitely worth addressing that, I think, as well. So yeah, having a coach-client relationship is pretty damn cool, and it's lucky to have as well.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. So this is one that's not into lifting. Well, it can be. Who knows? It can be. What is the best advice you've ever received?
So There's a couple that come to mind. So making a decision to be like a proactive choice is exactly the same as making a decision to make a non-active choice. So choosing not to go to the gym and choosing to go to the gym are both equally important decisions. And that as an example, in work, choosing to operate versus not operate, choosing to give a particular medicine management over not giving it, you need to view them with the same weight, essentially. So you look at the active choice as being more heavily weighted than the non-active choice.
Yeah.
But actually they both carry an equal amount of consequence to them, and you just
I
have
like
to weigh them
that.
up. And then the other one, which is kind of drilled into particularly medicine, but I think most careers, is regardless of how an event goes, you can always take something away from it. And it's basically a riff off everything happens for a reason. You find reason in everything that happens.
Yeah.
That's sort of where it goes.
That's brilliant. And again, it ties into that. Everything happens for a reason. It can be lessons. And you can learn from them. That's the thing. Everything's a lesson. Well, mate, thank you very much for taking time from your day to come here and chat. Hopefully it was useful for the listeners here. And yeah, thank you very much. It's been quite a good chat, quite a few lessons there. So thank you very much.